Hey everybody, it's Calvin Tahan here, back with another Regionals top in October 2012. These are back-to-back tops. I just woke up, it's 12 o'clock noon, and I'm more tired than I have ever been, even with 12 hours of sleep or whatever I got. I played this Regionals on 29 hours of being awake, no sleep. I have a really bad sleep schedule. I woke up at 5 p.m. on Saturday. Stayed up all night Saturday, watched the League of Legends World Finals all night. Stayed up and played some DN, went to regionals the day after, played 9 rounds of Swiss, went 8-1, and then had to drive home another hour, and then went to sleep. So I'm obviously not, nor was I yesterday, in the best state of mind. But despite all that, I'm somehow here. And I'm going to try to show you my deck list before I crash and fall back to sleep again. Okay, so this is the deck I used pretty much for both events. For the Richmond Regionals, which was last week, October 12th, was it? No, October 6th. October 6th, or whatever that weekend was. Saturday was for that October Richmond Regionals. I ran Darkworld Turbo, Chaos Turbo, whatever you want to call it. Darkworld Calvin Tahan, Darkworld CT, my own shenanigan that I have been crafting for over a year since Darkworld became available in October of 2011. So it's been a year now. As you can see, it runs 5 traps, 14 spells. That's not right. No, it runs 15 spells. It runs 14 spells, and I don't know. We're going to go through them. It's been a long night and day. Alright, the monster count. We have 2 Fabled Raven. They are awesome. I'm going to talk about them, I guess, now. They're tuners. That's really good. They're 2-star light tuners. Those are the 2 very important things about them. You can manipulate the stars they are. You can go into all sorts of things. Normally, if you open Raven and Silva, this guy over here, he's really good. Not really good, he's okay. You can go into a 8-star. First turn, I run Scrap Dragon and Stardust. I might find room for other 8 stars later in the future, but right now, those 2 are the cool guys. Sometimes, honestly, I just go into a first turn Scrap Dragon. I say YOLO, and just end turn with a Reckless set, or maybe not even a Reckless set. Maybe I hold the Reckless, but in this format, a lot of decks, namely Heroes, Dino Rabbit, Geargia, a lot of decks have trouble with a first turn Scrap Dragon because he will get under their bottomlesses and their warnings and their torrential, and all they'll have are deep prisons to set. If they have the one dark hole that they run, they can have it and they can use it there, and I don't have to worry about it later. I've fueled my deck with Fiends for my gates that I can use later on by going into the Scrap Dragon, and I baited their Dark Hole, which is all really good. If they don't have Dark Hole and they're playing something like Geargias or something bad, they're going to lose the duel because Scrap Dragon is just going to punish them turn after turn. They're not going to be able to do much about it. So that's a common turn 1 play that I like to go into. It's really good. Stardust isn't that great right now, especially, I don't know, a lot of decks can get over it, but it's still pretty good late game. 2 effect failures, that's something very uncommon that you never see in Dark Worlds. I like hand traps. I really like effect failure. I like being able to put a big guy like Grapha 3000 meter on the field and saying good luck with a Veiler in hand. You know, what can you do? Nothing. You can't do anything. Spirit Reaper. This card's really good. This is actually the best card in my deck. I run 2 of them as well. It has the best stall/poke potential in the game. I think it's the best. Honestly, it's one of the best monster cards ever created that's not stupidly overpowered. Like Blacklisters, we're not going to count cards like Reborn Tengu or this is a card like Thunder King, or Thunder King or other really good monsters that you could talk about that I'm too tired to think of right now that are really good. This card's great. You can set him. He's invincible, more or less. They have to do a lot of stuff. Windups can get over him pretty easily. A lot of decks can get over him sort of easily, but they have to work for it, expend their outs. And if they can't, you have a lot of turns to sit on him. Another thing is that he's really good for punishing people who underextend. A lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, everybody's guilty of this, even me. This is my main play in my deck. I just end turn with 6 cards in hand. That's like what I do every duel. Some people do that. Some people like set MST or like set nothing or just end turn. Like they draw, they're like, okay, I'm gonna hold my hand. They end. Spirit Reaper punishes people for underextending. Normally that's a really good play right now because there aren't a lot of decks that can OTK. So that's a safe play even if you don't have Gores. Spirit Reaper doesn't like that, not one bit. And so he gets to poke their hand and he's good. Or you can just set him, like I said. You can set him, end turn, next turn, go off with Grapha, pop their monster, or pop their back row, realistically. Summon Grapha, attack over their monster, flip Reaper, attack directly. That's game. They lost 3 cards in that exchange. They can't get over it. So that's just basically the game-winning play right there is Reaper. He's good. Tour Guide, this card's good. Dark Arm Dragon, this card is awesome. Especially in conjunction with Tour Guide. That's already 2 dudes right there, and you're in Darkworlds. A deck that manipulates the graveyard better than any other deck in the format right now. You can, if you have I think I've gone from 9. I've drawn Dark Armed. Obviously, with a big hand, you have to have a lot of resources. I've drawn Dark Arm Dragon with 9 Darks in my graveyard, and I have summoned Dark Arm Dragon in the same turn. So you use Silva for that. You go gates after gates. If you have 3 gates that you can use, every time you banish a fiend, so you banish a snow or something, that's 1 less dark, and Silva gets summoned. You bounce him for Grapha, that's another less dark. If you have Monster Reborn and BLS, it's just stupid what you can do. Even if you don't have a Silva. Raven's a fiend, and you can activate gates. It is a really bad play, and I almost never do this, but I think I've had to do it once when I've had 4 darks in grave. Activate gates, banish snow, discard Raven, draw 1. You don't get an effect from Raven, but he's a light fiend, which you can use gates on, and then you summon Dark Arm, and then you summon BLS. But yeah, these 2 guys are good. They're game winning. I almost always, not always, but almost always side both of them out game 2 and 3 just because they're a little inconsistent and they're gimmicky. It's a cheese strat. So cheese worked game 1, doesn't work too well games 2 and 3, but they're still both good cards that would never ever leave this build of Darkworld Turbo Chaos. 2 Silvas, these are good. I like Adreus. I'm a huge fan of him. I think he gets over D-Fisher and a lot of cool cards that other guys in my deck can't get over. I usually side 1 or both of these out, especially against Randy's. Because Randy's like to side cards like DD Crow against Darkworld and act like they're good. They're not. That card's terrible to side against this deck, but people do it. And if I know I'm playing a bad player, I will side this card out every time because bad players will side DD Crow, and this card's effect activates in graveyard, so they can chain Crow or to it. So bye Silva. 3 Brows. These cards are good. I think everyone has to run 3. Tour Guide gets them. 3 Snows. This card's good. 3 Graphas. This card, he's alright. No, he's good. So that was like 20 monsters, or 21, or 19, or 20, something. Spells. 3 card, 1. Just kidding. 1 card destruction. I don't draw this card as much as I probably should, but it's good. It's not always game when you draw it either, especially in this deck. You'll have it with like BLS, Dark Arm, Spirit Reaper in hand. Like, it's not the best card in the deck, but you have to. It's a late game card. If you hold it, it's a win more card. I think that's the word. I'm really tired. Monster Reborn, this card's good. Allure of Darkness, this card's good but inconsistent. I take it out games 2 and 3 almost always, but it's really good game 1 for digging through for your outs, for your Ravens or your dealings or anything you need. A cool, fun play is to activate Allure, banish Reaper, summon Tour Guide, go Leviar, get Reaper, thus putting a fiend in the grave in the process. Activate gates, go Grapha, pop their back row or their monster, and then blaze them with Reaper and Leviar or something. That's just common. Dark Hole, staple. I don't want to say it's a staple. In Darkworld, I think you can get away with all your popping power of Grapha not running this card. I run it personally because I run Spirit Reaper. In my past builds, I found ways that I wasn't in need of running it. I think right now we're seeing a lot less Dino Rabbit, though we are still seeing some. Another one top this regionals this weekend in Rockville. So they are something to look out for because you need outs to Dolka, and previously before that you needed outs for Christia, and now you kind of need outs for Christia again, even though a lot of agents aren't running it. Some of them still are. So I don't know how I feel about this card. I think honestly, I don't think Dark Hole is that good. And people are probably going to flame me and call me terrible for it, but I think out of these power cards, Storm, Monster Reborn, everything, every time I draw a Dark Hole in any deck, not even just this deck, I feel like it's highly underwhelming. I feel like, oh great, I get to clear their board, and that's great, but monster presence in this format, or any format, is really easy to replace, I feel like. And I feel like even if I'm clearing like 2, if I'm clearing 3 of the guys, I'm playing a bad player, and then Dark Hole's a good card there, but I'm clearing 2 of their guys, I just don't feel that good. I feel like I'd rather have a Monster Reborn there or anything. I feel like it's better to put something bigger on board or put a presence on board rather than just board wipe. So this card, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, but I have to run it right now. Heavy Storm's good. Yeah. Triple Upstart Goblin. Yeah, this card is good. I'm basically running a 37 card deck with it, which helps me draw my cool cards. Life points don't matter in decks like Darkworld. Card advantage do. So you can be at, like, honestly, if I can make a deal to let my opponent have 30,000 life points at the end of the duel, at the start of the duel, and let them start with, like, I don't know, 4 cards in hand, let me start with 6. I will take that every time. I will beat them 3 times. I think that's actually 4 times. I'll beat them 4 times over in one duel. That's just how little life points matter. Once you start going and once you've expended all their outs, they never could ever come back from it. So Upstart is great because it lets you draw into awesome cards at pretty much no cost. Darkworld Dealings. This card's fun. You have to be careful with it. Never use it turn 1 unless your opponent's not playing Darkworld. Even then, try not to use it because it does let them get that extra draw and it lets them pitch the worst card in their hand. So it's very dangerous. If you don't get as much as a reward from it as you possibly can, you don't want to use this card, especially against decks like Agents or even Wind-Ups. You have to be really careful with using this. I try not to use it unless I know I'm going for game that turn or unless I really, really have to get my engine kicked off. Or if I have my opponent top decking or with only 1 card in hand, that's when I'll use this card. I'll use this card all the time when they have none in hand or 1 in hand because then they don't have much of a say as to what they discard. And that makes me feel a lot better and more comfortable. Case, this is the only non-foil, non-holo card in my deck. That's going to change in like a month or so whenever that Super Gates becomes available to us. But right now, I just run 3 commons. It's a good card, obviously. Sometimes I side 1 out because MST is really strong. But it's still really good. Yeah. Traps. 1 Solemn Judgment. This card's good. You put 3 graphics on board, set it, say good luck. Smog, this card's the best card in my deck. No, it's not. I've said that about Reaper. It's not the best card in my deck, but it's really good. People don't expect it game 1. Even if they do, it's great. It's just another discard outlet for the mirror match. It helps terrorize decks like Agents, Heroes, Wind-Ups. Not as much Wind-Ups, but it terrorizes a lot of decks. Graveyard. People are lying if they say this format's not graveyard-oriented. Every deck has a graveyard presence. Every deck will run a Plot of Avarice or something. And that's not the main point. We don't care that we're getting rid of their graveyard. We care that we're getting our effects on their turn, which is really nice. If I set Smog and I have a Graph in hand and they are already low on presence and they already have a Graph on board or something, or a Reaper that they have to get over, this is a win more card. They can't do anything. The second they put a problem card on board, I pop it with Grapha. Or try to do something in their graveyard. It's just really good. And this card's almost never sided out, and it's always there game 1. These cards are good. This card, these are Reckless Greeds. They take a lot of skill to use. I know it's funny at first to say that, but you can't just open like Snow Grapha, Reaper, Dark Arm, like, I don't know, Monster Reborn and Reckless, and set Reckless Reaper and say, like, I win. That's terrible, and you'll lose that duel every time. You almost never set this card until, like, 4 turns into the duel, or unless you have 2. If you have 2, I guess you can set them. Even then, I would wait 1 or 2 turns. And the reason why is because you want draw phases. Draw phases are good. Why skip them? You're diminishing the point of Reckless Greed. You want to have more cards than your opponent. And so if you think you can live a few turns without drawing 2 cards, do it. If you can just set a Reaper or not even set it, just take some beats to the face, let them attack you a little bit directly, you can do that. And then when you're sure that you're not going to get MST'd in the end phase, or when you're sure that you have to set these cards and go off or you're going to lose, then you can set them. And then you can get your draw phase. So you'll have like 3 cards. You'll have 9 cards instead of 6 if you set it turn 1, because you'll have drawn 3 turns, and then you'll have more cards on top of that. Granted, they'll have the same amount of cards, but you can do a little more, as we talked about with Upstart Goblin. You can do a little more with the same amount of cards that they can, and you'll have more cards now with those 2 draws from Recklesses. And then the 2 draw phases skipped won't even matter because you'll never need them, usually. So yeah, that's the main deck. I am going to talk about the side deck and extra deck in either another video or on DGGs or Pojo, or I'm going to go to sleep again. My name is Calvin Tahan. Thank you for watching. Again, this is for the Rockville regionals, and I guess the Richmond regionals. It's pretty much the same deck. One thing to note is that for Richmond, when I topped, I went 9-0 in Richmond, undefeated in Swiss. I had one less Valor, and I had a trade-in. I didn't like trade. I like trade. Obviously, I went 9-0 with it, so it did something. But I didn't like its consistency. I found myself siding it out all the time. And so I put another Valor. I don't know how much I like that either. I did go 8-1. I lost to the only undefeated. I went 6-0, lost one, and then I lost one round 7, and then won the last 2. But again, we'll talk about that later. Thanks.